The Big E Sports Show.
Yeah, we got it going on,
The fastest hour in sports entertainment. We don't just talk about the headlines. We bring you some of the most engaging and colorful guests each and every episode for your listening pleasure. Now, without further ado, here's your host, Elissa Walker Campbell.
Hey, welcome into the Big E Sports Show. I'm Elissa Walker Campbell, and joining me now for the first time on the program in 2026 is Larry Miller, former PGA Tour player, author. He always brings a thoughtful, inside-the-ropes perspective and all the mental demands on elite competition and the life lessons the game continues to teach. Larry, good morning, and it's great to have you back with us.
Yeah, great to be back. And it's a new year for golf, and I'm sure that this year is going to be once again, very interesting and entertaining. And so there's going to be a lot to talk about through the golf year.
Well, we have a number of storylines that we're going to take a deep dive in. And let's look at the PGA Tour early in the season. What stands out to you and what signals where the game is headed?
Well, what stands out to me is that I see a pattern that has already developed just after a few weeks. And I think that pattern is going to be where you're going to see these young guns coming out from nowhere, seemingly, and then mixed with the guys like Scheffler, who goes out and wins, the American Express, and I think you're going to see that throughout the year. I think the pattern has been established early, and I think that's going to be the way that this year is going to go. I think you're going to see the breaking out of all these great young players coming out of college and the Korn Ferry Tour, and then you're going to also see the Schefflers and the McIlroys, win their share also. So it's going to be a mixed bag, and it's going to be interesting to see the battle between the newcomers and the veterans.
The veterans and the newcomers, but also how about the crossover? Let's talk about some of the guys returning from LIV, and that, of course, is Brooks Koepka. He makes his return at the Farmers Insurance Open, and it certainly is one of the biggest storylines. What does his presence mean inside the competitive ecosystem of the PGA Tour?
Well, he's one of those players that brings a lot of interest, from the fans into the game because of his personality and the way he plays. He plays very aggressively and confidently, and he doesn't keep it hidden. He lets you know about it. But he's a great player. He's won those U.S. Opens. He's proven that. He keys up for the majors. He gets excited for the majors, and I think it's going to be a great addition to the tour. And I'll tell you, I think the floodgates have been opened. And I think I'm going to make a prediction. I'll bet that before this 26 year is over, I think you're going to see LIV take their marbles and go home. I see them folding tent because now that Koepka's gone, Reed's going to be gone. I wouldn't be surprised if Rahm follows. And once all these big names go, let's talk about their motivation. What is the motivation for LIV to keep this going? Especially if all these big names pull out and go back to the PGA Tour. I just don't see them. I don't see any reason for them to hang around. They didn't succeed at what they wanted to do. They wanted to take over from the PGA Tour and become the Tour. That didn't happen. Now you've got these great players coming back to the tour, and it's only the beginning. You're going to see, as I said, the floodgates are open. You're going to see more of them want to come back now that that Koepka and Reed has taken the lead in that. So I'm predicting that LIV's going to just fold tent, at some point this year, and things will go back to the way they should be, where the best players in the world are competing on the PGA Tour.
Well, you have to wonder, Larry, too, what will LIV's strategy be? Because they cannot downplay these departures, as you're talking about, the news of Brooks Koepka and Patrick Reed. And it's been reported that these are not going to be the only guys that will find their way back to the PGA circuit. They're saying Kevin Na and Hudson Swafford are also to follow suit.
Yeah, that's right. And so, the gate at these LIV tournaments and the interest is so low. If you watch one of these events, it looks like it looks like a practice round or something. I mean, there's just nobody there, and now it's going to only be worse. Now there's a live tournament scheduled for here in New Orleans this year at City Park Golf Course. Mm-hmm. And now that these names are pulling out, I mean, I'm starting to wonder, how many people are going to go out there and watch this? And besides, New Orleans is not it never has been a golf destination to begin with. It's not a big golf town. It's all about the French Quarter and the restaurants, and the culture and all that. It's never been about golf here. And so now it was curious to begin with why they would have a live event here. I guess because nobody else would have them. And so now I can imagine the gate, there might be a few hundred people out there, So, I mean, how long do they want to go on with that charade, of having no interest and keep paying out all that money for people to play golf? I just don't see it continuing.
Well, you just have to, as we were talking about earlier, what is the plan B? What are they going to do? How do they counter in terms of, are they going to provide more loyalty incentives? They got to have clearer expectations for the players flirting with the potential return to the PGA Tour. How do they pivot?
Well, if they want to continue, then the only way that they're going to get some footing is to just really ramp up the money, because, I mean, let's face it, that's why these names went there in the first place, for the millions and millions that they got. So if they want to keep it going, well, if they want to just if they have a bottomless pit of money, which they seem to have, then they might just empty the pit, and just, that's the only way that they could gain a footing. I don't see any other way, really, because what are they going to do? Give a lot of money to a bunch of college players coming up that nobody really knows yet. They're going to know about them if they play the PGA Tour. But if they go to live, nobody's going to watch it. And so I just, unless they're willing to really get ridiculous with the money that they put out, I don't see them being able to do anything about it and continue.
Yeah. Brooks Koepka, a major winner. What were your takeaways from watching him yesterday? Shot 1 over 73. And he was quite candid that he experienced some big time nerves.
Yeah. And, there's a bit of rust they're going to have to shake that off. It's going to take a little while because these guys have been playing pressure-free golf. There's no cut. They've had no cut. They get lots of money no matter how they play. And so it's almost like practice rounds or exhibitions, There's no pressure. Now all of a sudden they're back on the PGA Tour. You've got 155 or 156 really great players to play against. All of a sudden now you have to perform. You can't just go out and play and rake in the money. You've got to put the numbers up. So I think there's a bit of rust because of that. They're not used to it. And, but, as great as these great players are, it won't take very long for them to get back in the swing of things, excuse the pun, but, be able to play under pressure just like they used to.
Former PGA Tour player Larry Miller, our very special guest on the Big E Sports Show, talking some PGA news and notes. And just curious, what was your initial reaction when you heard the announcement about the return of Patrick Reed? I guess he's going to be back in the month of August. Yeah, well,
I was glad to see it because I'm all for all the best players playing together. And so no matter who they are, no matter what their personalities or histories are, I'm just talking about the ability to play top-level golf, and you want to see all the best players playing together. So I was kind of glad to see it myself, and I just hope they keep coming because, it's been too long now that we've had to endure, maybe a field that's lacking, 2 or 3% of the best players in the world. And so it's going to be fun to see them all together again.
Well, Patrick Reed, he is a villain, what remains a polarizing figure. How do you think he's viewed among his fellow competitors? Do you think they're going to embrace him with open arms?
Well, his nickname is Table for One, but no, listen, let me tell you, there's been allegations, and certainly some have been, valid. But that's a long time ago, and Patrick Reed, some people take longer to mature, and get it right than others. And so we got to give him the benefit of the doubt, put that aside and see what happens going forward. I'm a big believer in I think if you look into the past, you back into the future. And I think that we have to give him the benefit and see how he, see how it goes with him going forward, coming back to the tour.
And it'll be fascinating to watch how he responds and reacts to the outside noise, the media scrutiny, the fan reaction, because they will be chirping, but sometimes he just embraces that and uses that as his mojo.
Yeah, Koepka's the same way. He loves it when there's controversy and criticism. He takes that as ammunition to play better. Some players are like that. They just love that. And others want you to adore them, and praise them. But anyway, that's just he and Koepka both are kind of the same way in that regard. As far as they can shake off any kind of chirping or barbs thrown out from the gallery. They don't care. They just makes them play better.
Did you watch some of Brooks Koepka's post-round interviews? He seems very different. Showed a lot of humility, soft-spoken, and just very grateful to be back on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, I think so. I think it has, and I think they've had time to see what it's like away from that venue, that they flourished on and made their names on. That's how they got famous, was on the PGA Tour. And they had to step away from that. And I think after a time of playing away from that on something lesser, I think it sort of maybe in a way humbled some of these players, and said, gee, I went for the money and it's cost me. It has cost me in terms of my competitive fire, because of playing without pressure. And it's maybe even cost me some recognition too, because they weren't the focus of the fans for a long time. And so, I think it's humbled some of them in some regard.
Well, the great start to 2026 for Scottie Scheffler picks up a win. Let's talk some X's and O's, Larry. I mean, what separates Scottie mentally and emotionally from the rest of the field?
Well, number one, he is very grounded, and that comes from his family. 3 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to spend 3 hours with his dad, Scott.
Wow.
And talking to him, and I was at a birthday party with the whole Scheffler family, except for Scottie. Scottie wasn't there, but all of his sisters were there. Callie, who played at Texas A&M, Division I golf, she was there. His parents were there, and I talked to Scott for quite a while. Mm-hmm. And after talking with him, you could see that whole family, how structured and how grounded they are in reality. And they're very humble people and very grounded people. And so you can see why Scottie grew up with that influence. And so that he takes that persona, to the golf course, and you can see it. And I also love the way that he, and this is something I've taught the kids, your boys, tried to drill into them is Scottie gets on every tee box and he has a plan for every hole. He's got a plan of how he's going to play that hole when he steps on that tee box, and he sticks to that plan, and it's very, very structured, and very solid. And he plays. He typifies playing one shot at a time. He just gives every shot 100%, and he does that all the way around the golf course. And then he just lets the scores add up. He doesn't think ahead. He doesn't look at leaderboards necessarily. He just plays every shot as well as he can play it. And that's the way you have to be. Ben Hogan was like that. Tiger Woods was like that. Jack Nicklaus was like that. All these elite players were the same way in that regard. Their course management skills and the way that they navigated themselves around the golf course and the way they strategized, was just, and every one of them used visualization. And let me tell you, I spoke with your son, Eli, who I helped the other night, and I tried to impress upon him how important course management was and how important visualizing good shots are. And let me say this, the body develops the picture that the mind takes, okay? So you take a picture in your mind and your body will develop that picture. It's the way it works. So if you concentrate on visualizing good shots, you got a good chance of pulling it off. Your body knows what to do. And so I think that's the thing that separates Scotty. And he has made himself through hard work. And his dad told me this. So nobody knows how hard this guy works. He works really hard behind the scenes, and especially on his short game. And he's become such an elite wedge player, all sorts of wedge shots from 100 yards in or more. And those things separate him from the pack.
You know, when you had a chance to visit with his dad, could he have ever anticipated that Scotty would have this level of success?
No. He could never fathom, that, Scott's occupation was he was a carpenter, and very humble family, and his wife had a nice job, and when they started having children, Scott became a stay-at-home dad. And now, he's got this son now that has become the number one player in the world. He's about as famous as Tiger Woods. He's won $100 million, But you know what? It hasn't changed these people at all. Scott told me when he goes to the Masters, he parks in the public parking lot out in the field with everybody else. And he told me that Fred Ridley came up to him and said, "Scott, you don't have to do that. You can park up here by the clubhouse."
Yeah.
And Scott told him, he said, Fred, that's just not me. That's not me. I'm happy where I am. And so that kind of solidity of a foundation, was transferred to Scotty as he was raised, and that's the way he was raised. And so that's another thing that really makes him special is that, he doesn't think of himself as special. He thinks of himself as a golfer that tries hard on every shot.
That's just incredible humility. We are winding down our time with Larry Miller, former PGA Tour player, on the Big E Sports Show. And just another quick hit on Scotty Scheffler. I mean, when you win early in the season, what does that do for you, psychologically for a player as you're trying to shape a championship season?
Well, for one thing, you don't have to keep going chasing a victory, and wondering when it's going to come and put pressure on yourself. You win early, and gee whiz, that pretty much, that was his 20th win, too, which gives him a lifetime exemption on the PGA Tour. So his job is there as long as he wants it. And so, there's all the pressure's off. Not that he really has any to begin with, but especially it's off after winning that early in the season. So now everything else is just going to be lanyard, gravy. So I think even now, if a young player like Chris Goddard won, now that's a big deal for a young player to win early in the year.
You bet.
That sets you up
in Hawaii.
For several years and takes all the pressure off financially and every other way. So it's a little different, when the young guy wins right away.
You talk about Chris Goddard, but another young guy, only 18 years old, Blades Brown, had that breakout performance at the American Express. Final question, just what were your takeaways? Just his composure and his confidence competing against seasoned tour players and in that final round with Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah, and, I was struck by his maturity, for his age and how composed he was. And I'll tell you what I really liked. I liked after the tournament the way he said that, he didn't play that well. I think he shot 2 over the final round. but what he said was that he was humbled by playing with Scotty. And the biggest thing he said was he learned. He says, I learned from that round.
Yes.
And boy, that really shows a lot of maturity to say that, and to acknowledge the fact that I've got a lot to learn. But he's the real deal. He's got that same grounded way about him, and so with his game, he's got a super game. So there's nothing but good stuff coming from him down the line.
Super impressed with him. Had an opportunity at the USM at Hazeltine up in Minnesota to walk with his dad. Blades played with Stephen, and it was just fascinating to just watch him in action. Hey, we are winding down our time with Larry Miller, former PGA Tour player, author. Always look forward to catching up. And Larry, the countdown's on for Super Bowl 60, and we're going to have you weigh in on that next week. Thank you so much, Larry. You and Connie have a great weekend.
Great, and the same to you all. Happy New Year to all you all out there, and have fun playing.
You bet.